This week in water news, California pushes ahead with the massive Sites Reservoir project. The Colorado River Basin sinks deeper into crisis. Imperial Irrigation District surprises many by backing the Delta Conveyance project. And we'll take you back in time with old headlines about the Great Salt Lake that sound eerily familiar to today's warnings. Stay tuned for Western Water Weekly.
On September 5th, the Bureau of Reclamation confirmed that public negotiations with the Sites Project Authority will continue later this month. The Sites Reservoir, planned about 10 miles west of Maxwell in Northern California, would be one of the state's biggest new water projects in decades, holding up to 1.5 million acre-feet of water. The idea is simple: capture Sacramento River flows during wet years and store them for the dry ones. The next negotiation session is scheduled for September 23rd in Willows, California, where the public can attend and comment. Supporters say the project will boost water reliability and even help stabilize ecosystems that depend on steady flows. Meanwhile, the drought picture across the West remains grim. More than 65% of the region is in drought, with 14% of it extreme or exceptional. The Colorado River Basin is at the heart of the crisis. The entire basin is in drought, and nearly half of it is at the worst levels. Lake Mead is down to 31% capacity, while Lake Powell is just 29% full. Projections show Powell may fall so low by late 2026 that hydropower could fail. Groundwater has also taken a hit. Since 2002, the basin has lost almost 28 million acre-feet of groundwater, about the same as Lake Mead's entire storage. Across the West, states are struggling. Utah's reservoirs are dropping more than twice as fast as usual. Washington is in its third straight year of drought, and the Yakima Basin is at some of its lowest levels since the 1970s. The National Integrated Drought Information System is launching a year-long communications push to raise awareness. Their message: restoring balance will take not just one wet winter, but several years of above-average snow. In a notable move, the Imperial Irrigation District, the largest irrigation provider in the United States, announced its support for California's Delta Conveyance project. The project would add new Sacramento River intakes and build a 45-mile tunnel to move water under the delta. Governor Gavin Newsom welcomed IID's endorsement and urged the legislature to speed up approval, saying the state cannot afford further delays. IID leaders emphasized that strengthening the delta helps relieve pressure on the drought-stricken Colorado River. As one director put it, when the delta is stable, the Colorado River is stronger. In San Bernardino County, the Valley Municipal Water District, Fontana Water Company, and KDIZ Incorporated are teaming up to address perchlorate contamination. Perchlorate, a chemical linked to rocket fuel and fireworks, has long plagued local groundwater. The new agreement calls for advanced filtration systems to remove contamination while also recharging water supplies through the cactus basins. Officials say this partnership could serve as a model for other regions struggling with both pollution and supply challenges.
Here's this week's Blast from the Basin, where we dive into old newspaper headlines to showcase water stories from a time long gone. The Great Salt Lake is making headlines again. Levels are dangerously low, scientists warn of ecological collapse, and the state of Utah is scrambling with drought emergencies, new water laws, and even talk of raising the berm between the lake's two arms. But here's the thing. If you flip through the old newspapers, you'll find that people were saying almost the exact same thing more than 100 years ago. In November of 1893, the Salt Lake Herald ran the headline, "The Great Salt Lake Rapidly Drying Up." The article warned that unless conditions changed, buffalo, elk, and deer might just walk off Antelope Island on dry ground. Just a few weeks later, in December of 1893, the Deseret News printed a long lecture about ancient Lake Bonneville. The professor explained that the Great Salt Lake's rise and fall was simply part of natural geologic cycles. In other words, don't panic. Fast forward to January 26, 1901. The Deseret News again reassured the public with the headline, "Great Salt Lake will rise again." An official from the U.S. Weather Bureau said, quote, "The climate of the Great Salt Lake Basin is not changing. It will never dry up." But the very next year, on August 21, 1902, the Salt Lake Telegram declared, "Great Salt Lake doomed, big body of briny water slowly drying up." The very same official, Lester Murdoch, was quoted again, this time saying, There is no doubt Salt Lake is drying up, but the process is so slow our generation will never see the end. So which is it, rising again or doomed? Meanwhile, in 1904, the state was literally reshaping the lake. Engineers completed the loosened cut-off railroad trestle, 30 miles of track right across the water. To hold it up, they dumped massive fills of rock and soil, creating a berm that acted like a dam and forever changed the lake's circulation. And by 1913, the Ogden Standard got downright sarcastic. Their headline, "Great Salt Lake is not disappearing." The article mocked earlier predictions and even put the word scientists in scare quotes. It read, quote, 10 years ago, the waters of Great Salt Lake were receding. At that time, scientists were predicting the lake would dry up and this earth would be as unproductive of life as the moon. End quote. The paper insisted there was no mysterious outlet or maelstrom swallowing water near Antelope Island and pointed out that the lake was actually 4 inches deeper than the year before. Sound familiar? Dire warnings, skeptical pushback, assurances that it will all even out. And yet here we are, in 2025, facing toxic dust storms, dying wetlands, and urgent debates over how to save what's left of the Great Salt Lake. So here's the question for you. Is history just repeating itself with natural cycles of rising and falling water, or are we in uncharted territory this time, with climate change and population growth rewriting the old script? Think about it, and let's hear your thoughts.
Back in the present, the Department of the Interior has announced a record $437 million allocation from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. The 7 Colorado River Basin states will receive just over $73 million combined, with California receiving the largest share. A new secretary's order expands eligible projects, including wetlands restoration, flood protection, and recreation improvements. But not everyone is on board. Some advocacy groups worry that certain provisions could limit protections or even allow surveillance in recreation areas. How states use their allocations will determine whether the program expands outdoor access or faces further criticism. Colorado Senators Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper have introduced a bill to transfer Crystal Reservoir near Ouray from federal to city ownership. The reservoir, drained last year, had long provided water for the community, local hot springs, and even wildfire response. Locals describe it as a crown jewel that needs restoration. If passed, the transfer would return responsibility to the city at no cost, but with the duty of repairing and maintaining the reservoir. Scientists at the University of Texas at Dallas are testing a new material to remove polyfluoroalkyl substances, known as forever chemicals, from the environment. The material, called a metal organic framework, is highly porous and can trap PFAS in seconds. Unlike traditional carbon filters, these frameworks can be cleaned and reused, potentially making them a game changer for water treatment. Researchers are also exploring whether the material can break down the chemicals entirely, which would prevent them from re-entering the environment. The Department of the Interior is proposing to rescind the Bureau of Land Management's public lands rule finalized just last year. The agency says the repeal would restore flexibility for grazing, timber, and recreation and reduce litigation risks. Industry and ranching groups praised the move, but environmental organizations called it a dangerous rollback of protections for wildlife, watersheds, and outdoor recreation economies. The proposal is now open for public comment through November 10th. California firefighters are piloting BurnBot, a remote-controlled machine that performs safe, controlled burns to reduce wildfire risk. Resembling a cross between a Zamboni and a tractor, BurnBot clears dry vegetation while also encouraging the regrowth of fire-resistant native plants. Already deployed across thousands of acres, the tool is drawing national attention as western states search for innovative ways to reduce wildfire risk. The September 11th U.S. Drought Monitor shows mixed conditions across the West. Arizona saw drought relief in the west and south, but extreme drought expanded in the east. California held steady, despite hotter-than-normal weather. Southern Colorado improved, but northern areas slipped into more severe drought. Southeastern Nevada saw improvements after rain. New Mexico had major relief around Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Las Cruces. Southwestern Utah improved slightly, but long-term stress continues, and Wyoming remains largely drought-free. Looking ahead, forecasts favor above-normal heat across most of the country, with wetter conditions expected in the Rockies and Southwest. That's it for this week's Western Water Weekly. From drought updates to new projects and even historic headlines, water continues to shape life across the West. For links to the government comment pages and other details for the stories discussed here, be sure to visit western-water.com, where fresh stories are published Monday through Saturday. What are your thoughts? Are today's challenges just history repeating itself, or is climate change pushing us into new territory? Leave a comment and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update.